to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today, I am very happy and delighted to welcome my friend, Anna Nelson. Anna and I met in September 2022 at Heroic Public Speaking. And out of the 60 or so people that were there, Anna was the first person I immediately connected with. In this episode, you will hear her say that this is her strength, connecting with people on a deeper level. And I can personally attest to that. Anna coaches new entrepreneurs on how to get focused and aligned in their businesses. And she says that if you're wondering, am I doing this right? I thought this would be more fun. I'm feeling like a jack of all trades and a master of none. Then she can help. You are exactly the kind of entrepreneur that she works with, and she loves it, right? Anna helps entrepreneurs discover their strengths. And when we know our strengths, we can make good decisions based on the things that we're good at and not scramble to do the things that we don't have a skill set for. And not only does Anna help you recognize your strengths and your potential, she encourages you and helps you see how to use it in a meaningful and beneficial way for your business. Now, before we get to Anna, I want to remind you about Luann Live, Health and Wealth, a well-designed business within a well-designed life. This is going to be a fun weekend and a great chance to connect with your colleagues. It's also a fantastic opportunity to learn from the best in the business and walk away with an actionable plan for 2024. For example, two of our keynote sponsors are Nancy Ganskaufer and her Profit Insiders Academy and Tracy Connell and her Gloss program. Both of these outstanding businesswomen lead year-long programs designed to help you identify your gaps as well as your strengths so that you can take your business to the next level. Both Tracy and Nancy have different styles, different superpowers, just like all of us. And what better way for you to learn more about each of these women and about the type of coaching programs they offer than to spend quality time over 3 days at Luann Live with them. Add to that the learning, the growing, and the expanding of your network of colleagues. Well, I just have to say, I think that's a slam dunk, don't you? Now, go to luannlive.com to learn more. All right, I'm super happy to introduce you to my friend Anna. Hey, Anna, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thanks for having me, Luann. This is really fun.
I know. I love when I interview my friends. It's kind of a two-edged sword, though, because I have to say, when I interview my friends, I'm always saying to the editor, if I talk too much, just cut it out. Because I go into friend mode as opposed to so much interview mode, right? So anyway, but here's the thing. Despite being my friend, you have an amazing superpower. So you're not just here because you're my friend. You're here because, you have this unique ability and you have this gift where you help entrepreneurs. You get in our brains, you figure us out, and you help us discover our strengths. We call that here, Anna, our Fred Burns only, just so you know. But beyond understanding our strengths as entrepreneurs, you help us understand them so that we can make good decisions based on the things that we're good at. And I guess the end of that sentence is not flailing around and trying to make decisions without the skill set to do it or something, right? So talk to me a little bit about this.
Yes, so it is my favorite. And yes, basically I help anyone who is feeling a little bit stuck and like, I'm not really sure what to do, or this doesn't seem to be working the way that I thought it would work, or I have this goal or this dream that I'm working on in our space, like entrepreneurs, they have a goal of like making money on their own terms, being autonomous and having, just doing things their own way. And it's like, okay, you can do that, but let's first figure out how that is possible and what you bring to the table. Because as we know, business is not just run in a vacuum or a silo. We need other people. So it's first like understand what you bring to the table and how that relates to your goals. But then also, who's the first person you might need to hire? Or who is your ideal client? Or how do you articulate what it is that you bring to the table? Those are all things that I love doing, and I love it because the transformation of the people I work with is unbelievable, and it's life-changing for them.
Wow.
Like it's life-changing for me because I love those interactions, but it is so fun to get messages from people to be like, oh my gosh, I got that job offer. Oh my goodness, I just submitted the biggest contract ever to a client and they said yes. And it's like, that is because we had this conversation. So
right. I love it. I love it. And the thing is to drill into it a little bit, we're not talking about the superpower or the essence of like it for my audience, interior designers and window treatment professionals, right? We're not talking about their ability to design a room or a window treatment. We're talking about the intrinsic thing that they bring to the table as the human person, right, Anna?
Yes. I grew up in a household where we did not have a lot of money. And so because we didn't have a lot of money, both my parents, they had to figure out, well, if our kitchen needs a remodel, how do we do that? Well, all of a sudden my dad's figuring out how to use a power saw and hammer and nails. And like, I grew up like, go sand the floor and go paint these boards. Like now we're take off the linoleum and we're putting up wallpaper or taking it off, like all of the things. So like as a designer, maybe you can design a room, but how you approach designing that room is going to be different than someone else. Like my mom is not an official interior designer, but she loves design. She loves beauty. She loves creating experiences for people. And I grew up in a household where we didn't have a lot of money. So if my mom wanted the house to look nice, it was on her to figure out how to do that. And my dad is an amazing carpenter, welder, you name it. My parents can do anything. It is unbelievable. Landscaping, fixing rust on a car. My dad switched out a toilet bowl on Christmas morning one year, and he did it in less than 3 hours. Most people would never do that.
Right.
But my mom is really good at color. She painted the painting behind me. My dad made the frame behind it. So if she was going to come to your house, but she's done this for her friends, and you're like, I really want maybe a taupe color or something, she will bring 1,000 paint chips to that person's house and figure out like, okay, how, like all of the ideas for how, when it's shady out or when it's sunny out, how will the paint reflect on the walls? Because what kind of mood do we want? So she's approaching it very different than if I was to design a room, which would be like, do you want white or eggshell? Let's like 2 colors. But I would be really good at building a relationship with like, oh my gosh, Luann, it's okay. Like if you really want to change that living room in your house, let's talk about it. Like what's getting in the way? And so you don't want me as an interior designer, but understanding what sets you apart from others in your industry, that is where it comes down to, because there are slight nuances, right? And being able to say, I'm the interior designer you want to work with if you love big, bold colors.
Right.
Let's say, or if, however people differentiate themselves. But yes, the intrinsic value, intrinsic internal.
Well, and I think my experience with you is that the help that you give is it could be that the differentiator is that you are an interior designer that really leans into color and, embraces it and knows how to mix it up and do all the things and have it not look like, chaos, right? But it also sometimes that's not it. Sometimes that superpower doesn't have anything to do with the talent that we're doing. It has to do with the way that, I mean, like, let's take me for example. I'm extremely direct, right?
Mm,
So if you're going to come to me and want to maybe work with me as a chairman of board, then if you don't like extremely direct, then we're not probably going to be a good fit. But I'm also at a point in my life where I understand that about myself. So what happens is, when I have those introductory calls with people, I'm not showing up as all sunshine and unicorns and everything. That first conversation, I'm banging you. I'm hitting you over the head with some truths, because if you don't like it then, you're not going to like it after you give
mm.
me all your money, right? And so the thing is, I don't know that at the beginning of my career, I would have been able to identify that as a trait of mine. I would have just been like, well, doesn't everybody just tell everybody the truth straight between their eyes? Right. And so that's your superpower, Anna, right? Like, you help people in there. So, right? Am I right?
Yes. And it's surprising how, yeah. And of course, each person is individual, because I've worked with people where, I mean, I listened to your podcast and all these awesome, talented individuals who have like all of these great ideas. But if you don't appreciate the value of your ideas and why that sets you apart from someone else, then you don't know how to use it in a way that can benefit your business. And I worked with someone once who was like, she was a huge ideas person and it was one of her top strengths. And I was like, this is amazing. You could work at some like think tank that needs someone with your brain. And she's like, I grew up where everyone told me that ideas are a dime a dozen.
Whoa.
And it's like, well, if we look at it from this angle, let's talk about how valuable they are. And
Right.
so the power of knowing what you bring to the table is life changing, and just knowing how you operate. And I think it also helps with knowing, why do you procrastinate? I know if I procrastinate, it's because I don't like building things from scratch. I prefer taking good things and making them better. If I'm building something from scratch, like in my business, it is awful for me. But the way that I get around it, because I love one-on-one conversations, which is the whole how my business is structured so I can have paid conversations with people, I will let myself call a friend after I do some hard thing that I don't want to do, because I know like that's what I want. Oh, I'll Voxer Luann and be like, oh my gosh, how's it going? And that's my reward. So
Whoa. So you play games with yourself. You give
based
yourself
on what I
rewards.
know, yeah, because
Yes.
I'd rather talk to someone than do anything I need to do. But to have a business that I want, I have to do those hard things.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, and it's interesting is, I think what I'm also hearing is, if you didn't know yourself well enough to know that you just don't really have the superpower of starting from ground zero, where the nuance in there that I'm going for is, because you've done the deep work to understand that you don't like to build from the ground up. Sometimes you still have to. And as an entrepreneur, you recognize when you have to. But because you know it about yourself, instead of just putting it off for 2 weeks and it not getting done, you set yourself up with a reward for doing it. And that you can only set yourself up for that reward if you've done the work to understand, oh, that's why. Because, and I'm running on sentence here, but the thing is, because until you do that work, I think you can just beat yourself up over the head
Mm-hmm.
for not doing it. You see, I've
Mm-hmm.
learned that with my coaching with Amber de la Garza. I'm just like, I guess I just don't have enough discipline. She's like, Glenn, I haven't met 5 people that have the discipline that you have. I'm like, yeah, but if I won't ever do that thing. And she's like, no, it's because it's not in your wheelhouse to do it.
Yep.
Right. And that's very liberating when you work with someone like yourself that teaches you what your strengths are, or uncovers for you and with you what your strengths are, because then you stop banging your head against the wall, right?
On so many levels, including like, what's my ideal client, right? Because in order to get paid, we have to figure out who our ideal client is. And it's like, okay, I've worked with people where they're like, ooh, I've been working with the wrong client.
Mm.
And there's freedom in recognizing it isn't because you're not a caring person. It's just that that client isn't going to make enough changes for you in order for you to feel good about your services. So let them go. There are other people who can help that client out. But
Right.
there's a whole other world that you haven't even explored. And those people are your ideal clients. So go after them. And that's life changing because I don't know about you, but I went into business for myself so that I wouldn't have to have a boss, or I could travel whenever I wanted. And I wanted to create a life I loved, and that was having a business that I loved. And so you have to figure all of that out in order to have the thing that you want and love.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you do it a little bit? Obviously, it takes deep work. It takes lots of one-on-one. I'm sure of it. I've been through a lot of it. Believe me. But some things, like, we've got a lot of people that aren't at a stage of life. We always say it's time or money, right? So
Mm.
you have to invest your time in trying to learn a new thing, do a new thing, or your money. And so for those that aren't at the stage where they're willing to make the investment in personal development at this point, are there certain things that you could set us up for and say, start to begin here, or whichever?
Yes. And I think the number one thing is pay attention
Mm.
and be honest. And yes, you can take into what others may have told you about yourself into account to help you figure out, like, okay, what are some things that I really shine at? But it isn't always obvious. But then when it is, you're like, duh, why didn't I think about that? But like, for a brief moment in time, because I've always wanted to have my own business ever since I was in high school. And I always thought I would have a clothing business. I grew up sewing. I thought I could do this. And then, long story short, I ended up becoming a certified professional bra maker. So I could make you a custom perfectly fitted bra right now.
Which is
And
extremely important, by the way.
it is very important. And it is a lot. I mean, you think of how many pieces go into a house or a room, like a bra, right? Has at least 30 parts, sometimes 60 pieces just for one particular bra. So
Wow.
don't ever complain that you're paying $65 for a bra at Nordstrom's, because that is a steal. Okay.
That's it.
But I spent a lot of time and a lot of money investing in this. This was going to be my entrepreneurial journey. This is what I was going to do. And people were really excited about it and everything. And I just got to the point where it was like pulling teeth to sit in my sewing studio and draft a pattern and cut it out and sew it together and then call the customer to be like, hey, come try your product on, and then make the changes. It was like, I hated it, and I felt really bad about, like, why do I hate this so much? Because this is what I wanted. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And anytime someone would call to say, do you want to go out for a drink, or do you want to go get coffee? I would drop that sewing project like a hot potato, and I was out. I was done. And but that was the turning point for me, where one day I realized, why do I keep saying yes to coffee and no to this thing that I've invested so much money in to do? And ultimately it was like, because I will do anything to have a one-on-one conversation with someone. And it isn't just any one-on-one conversation. It is helping someone move forward in their life on a goal, and helping them see, like, you can do it, and here's why. So I had to pay attention to my own self and understand and be honest, like, you know what, then maybe I've been barking up the wrong tree for the last few years, and that's okay, because I can use this as a story later on in my life. So paying attention. And one of the things, I love meeting new people all the time. So in my coaching, as of right now, I don't have a multi-year long or weekly coaching program. I will meet for people for like 3 hours over 2 sessions, and boom, they're off to the races. And I will work with them longer term as well. But I just love meeting as many people as I can, because I know in those 3 hours, their life changes.
Wow.
And then eventually they start soaking in the information. They're like, okay, maybe I need to talk to you a little bit more. But I would say, number one, pay attention, be honest, and and be okay with recognizing if maybe you've been doing the wrong thing. And that's okay
Mm.
because you're using that as a learning opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that there are patterns or similarities when you're working with your clients where, like, programming from childhood, like that one woman that
Mm.
you said that, is that a big thing? So, and if it is, how do sometimes you don't recognize the ways that you've been programmed as a young adult or a child to think certain things about yourself. How do you get to the root of that?
I think sometimes that comes up for sure. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, we're bordering on like therapy right now, and this is not coaching. But I come at it from a strengths perspective, and I grew up in a household where my mom, she and I are completely opposite. And because of that, then I never really appreciated a lot of like my own strengths until, I was in my 30s or early 40s or whatever. But now I can appreciate how she and I are different. So whenever I move, especially if I move in the state that I'm in, she will come over with my sister, who is also really good at putting households together, and they'll do it. I just say, here's my credit card, get what you need, do whatever you want. I don't want any part in it. And they do an amazing job, and I love it. And so now I can appreciate her ability to make a home feel homey, because I don't have that. But I'll
Right.
talk to you about your feelings any day of the week.
Right. But when you suggested it before, the contrast, it's because it took you a while, it sounds like it, to recognize, because you didn't have the similar strengths as your mom, you didn't see that you saw it as a deficit as
Yes,
opposed to
correct.
my own set of strengths, right? That's like a big thing, right? Like, we look at our parents or our major influences, and if we don't feel like we're as good at them as certain things, it's the next thought is sometimes, so I guess I'm not good, as opposed
Yeah.
to I'm just good at different things.
Correct. And that's one of the things that I just love, is because I feel like for years um I'm not the same as, I'm one of five. I am not the same as my five siblings. I was the only one who got multiple letter grades in school. And I'm talking all letter grades, not just straight A's and B's, for example, which they all got straight A's. I got all letter grades. And so
What does that
growing up,
mean? All letter grades. What does that
well,
mean?
like A, B, C, D, and F. So I
Oh,
got
you mean
all
your
of
report
those
card
letters.
had
My
all
report
the
card.
letters
Yeah,
on one
sorry.
report
My
card.
report card always, I had those letter grades. And so growing up in a family where like 4 out of 5 are getting straight A's, but one of them is not, and that was me, it was like, oh, I guess I'm
Whoa.
not smart. And they never said that, but you feel like maybe I
Well,
am, maybe I'm not smart because I'm not getting straight A's. And so now as an adult to own, like, you know what I'm really good at though? Because I would have gotten a straight A between classes when I was friends with Rich, who was on a gang, all the way up to like the jocks, the cheerleaders, the regular everyday people. Those
yeah,
I knew hundreds of people. And
yeah,
I'm really good at, in that conversation, being like, you can do that, or oh my gosh, you applied to that college. That's amazing.
yeah,
That's my wheelhouse, is helping people
right,
move forward with what they want. And
yeah,
so, yes. And I love helping people understand, like, yeah, maybe in the past, this is how it was interpreted, but when used well, this is your strength as a superpower. And maybe right
hmm,
now it just hasn't had the opportunity to be used well, or you've been using it way too much. So now it's too much and it's too overwhelming. But so I like to help people see, like, okay, here's how we get to the middle. So it's not too much and it's not too little.
okay. Can you think of somebody, obviously without recalling, calling them out, but like, uh, any ahas recently of somebody that you've worked with, or in the past, like, just like that, like, to get it a little bit more tangible, somebody that was really unaware of a strength that they had, that maybe, like designers, a lot of times they take their talent for granted, and they don't literally charge enough because they think it's easy and
Mm.
I got this. But that's different. We're talking about a personal trait. And I know that we can overlook things because it's just who we are, and we don't realize it's special and unique, right? And it's something that we could put to work in our business, is, I guess, the thing to say.
I can think of one client who works is he, this client is a marketer, and his clients, kind of like you, they're all in one industry. So like you
Okay.
work with interior designers, he works with a particular set of doctors, all in the same industry, and he helps them with their marketing. And when I worked with him, he was really frustrated because he's a strategic thinker. And
Okay.
I would be like, because he would be like, I have such trouble. Like, I'm always like yo-yoing back and forth between, should I do this or should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do this? And so it was like he was getting in his head
Yeah.
as a thinker and thinking way too much about whatever. But after we worked, I was like, okay, but this is why you make a difference in your clients' lives. It's because you can take that individual doctor, even if the doctor's in the same building as like 5 other doctors, and you can say, so let's say you're the doctor, you can say, Luann, this is the plan that we are going to do for you based on what I see around you and what I know your goals are and
Right.
where you want to go. And so once we talked about how he could create any number of marketing plans for the same number of doctors, all in the same industry, but they were all very different. But that was based on his ability to think. And I think he was also high in ideation, but he had a lot of strategic thinking themes. And so when he could see, like, oh, yeah, I can see how that's showing up, and then pull back and calm himself down when he's like, okay, I don't need to overthink this right now. Just like
Right.
pick an
In
item on
other
the
words,
menu to eat.
it sounds like he's the guy who has a lot of ideas. And so when he was working with a particular doctor, it was like, I have 10 ideas, which one I'm in my head, as opposed to, I have 10 clients and I have 10 great ideas. Let me execute each idea on with, each group of clients, right?
Yeah. And so then because of that, he was able then to go back into like the contracts that he was pulling up or creating for clients. And he was able then to be really strategic in what he was proposing in the contracts in a very different way than he had been before, and in a different way than what his competitors were doing.
Okay. So what he's doing is, it sounds like to me, now he's defining his deliverables in a way that when I read it, I'm like, I'm going to get this, as
Yes.
opposed to, I'm going to get a marketing plan. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to get one. But now he was literally putting those ideas, those strategies in individual contracts.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
specific to that client and knowing
Yeah.
what he knew. But it required him to think about things differently. And so it was just really cool to like work with someone who already was a success. He was
Yes.
already in the business, he was already making money, but now he's able to make more money because he understands, oh, this is why someone would hire me over someone else.
Right, 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 right. I love it. I love it. It's the thing is, that's what it is. When we finally understand that we have these strengths and these unique differentiators, now we've got to talk about them. Now we've
Yeah.
got to, make sure that the world understands and knows what they are, right?
Yeah, and even for myself, like I mean, I wish I had a coach like me for me, because it took me a really long time to figure out. And I've interviewed clients be like, "Tell me, please tell me how I helped you. Where were you before and where you are now after?" And besides, every single one was like, you helped me with my confidence. But they never came to me because they had low confidence, but they were like, I felt 1,000% more confident doing what I was doing, or feeling more confident about the decisions I was making. But really what I helped them do was get focused and aligned in their business.
Yeah.
So now, rather than just guessing or flailing, they were like, this is what I'm good at. I'm going to focus on that. Here's who I need to hire if I need to hire someone, if I'm in that position. And if I'm not in a position to hire, at least I know why it might feel hard, but that's because it's not the thing that I should technically focus on, but I need to just do the work anyway to make it happen. So eventually I can hire that out.
Right, right, right. And I've never asked you this in all the conversations we have. Do you utilize any of the assessment tools, the
Yep.
Myers-Briggs and, all of that stuff? Do you work with those, and Enneagram? Does any of that have any bearing on what you do?
Yeah. So my all-time favorite that all clients will work with, or I will use with clients, is the Clifton Strengths Assessment.
Okay. Okay.
It used to be called the Strengths Finder 2.0, and everyone had the book.
Right.
But now it's much more elevated. They have different report that I will use now when I work with clients.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and I love that one because it comes right out of the box starting with strengths. It is not, let's start talking about how you think too much. It's more like, let's talk about how thinking is actually a strength.
Okay. Okay. And is that something that, any of us can go to a website and take, or is that only facilitated through certified, coaches like yourself?
Yeah, no, you could literally go to Gallup, Google Gallup Clifton Strengths Finder, and it'll come up. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I would get
I
the
did
full
it once
34.
a long time ago, and I didn't know if it had changed, if it, like you said, the next version or whatever. Okay. So the thing about all of this is that we now want to take this information when we do this, and you mentioned in there that it makes it easier to make decisions. You're not flailing around, right? So my question is, what if I am an entrepreneur and I am, this is something that I run into a little bit. I'll have conversations with either designers or window treatment professionals that are in business 15, 20 years, and they have achieved a certain level of success, and they have sort of done the things that they set out to do, and they're making a good living. Maybe they're making 150, 200K, but there's a little like spark that's gone, and it's sort of like, maybe I'm 50, 55, and I'm like, well, it's too young to retire. I'm too active mentally and still have too much drive to not do anything, but I'm kind of on this hamster wheel of doing the same thing over again. Is that a candidate for coaching with you also, Anna? I have no idea.
Absolutely. I worked with someone this winter who very successful, say just who you described, except obviously not in the interior design business. And I did the same like one-on-one. I think we met 2 or 3 times and just kind of set them on a path of like, focus on this. This is what you already love doing. It's almost like just giving each individual permission to focus on the thing that they like doing, or reminding them of, this is the thing that you're really good at. Because in life, it's easy to like get away from the things that we are really good at, or the parts of our business that we really loved doing. And maybe we grew too big and now that's far away, but it's like, you can get back to that. Yeah. And who knows what would come from just like a little bit of a reset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yes, long story short, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, because you know what? I've had those conversations over the years with more seasoned entrepreneurs. And typically what'll happen also in a conversation like that is, I could invest in an e-commerce site. I could open up an actual live brick and mortar. I could grow my team to X amount of more people, or I could, scale my team back and this. And it's almost like, because you get to a point in your career where you actually know you could do any of those things. Like you have enough confidence as a business person to know, I could do it if I put my mind to it. But there's that little moment of, but what do I really want to do?
Yeah.
Like, and that's I find is a tough place for a successful, seasoned entrepreneur to be in, because it is peeling things away and saying, well, just because I'm good at that, I'm not going to do it. Because you do have to get, that's where, it strikes me as your all of your copy on your website and so forth is get in alignment, get in focus and alignment,
Yeah. And so many times, like for a while, I was coaching at a company that, they had their own particular assessment, but I would always sneak in like, have you heard of the Clifton Strengths Assessment? It's not part of this program, but I am certified in it. So if you want, but most of my clients would do it. And that I cannot tell you how many times people were like, I quit my job, I got a new job, I applied for a job that I would never have thought about applying for. And so it's like, they didn't even think that was the problem, that how I ended up helping them was not what they thought was the problem.
Right. That's so often the case.
Exactly. And so yes. So I basically start anyone off with, let's figure out what it is you're good at. And then we can talk about how it relates to what is it that you really, really want?
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
already accomplished this. Like, is there something now that you know this, and helping them see, like, yeah, this is how I have been a success, even though I didn't realize that that was contributing to my success. How can I do that and be very focused and aligned in making more of that happen and show up in my life?
Mm.
That is life changing.
I think that is a good nuance in there too that you said is like you can sometimes recognize that you've had a measure of success, but you don't always have the self-awareness to understand the trait in you or a
Yeah.
combination of traits that have contributed to that. You're just like, well, this is what I do. Right. This is what I did. This is how it happened. But understanding that, and that's a good distinction, because if someone is a multi-talented entrepreneur and
Mm-hmm.
does have that little moment of what's next, it really is that I can see that next layer of understanding. It's like, well, what are the core strengths that created the main success that I've already enjoyed?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about, for instance, starting an e-commerce site versus a brick and mortar, on its very basic, most obvious level, there is a huge difference between human interaction and technology
Yeah.
from the two, right? Like how you get the brick and mortar set up and how you get the technology set up are completely different processes, but ultimately the businesses are 180 degrees different. One is every day I'm going to talk to humans. One is every day I'm just going to look at my numbers and see if I made money. So
Yeah.
like if you like, it's occurring to me that if I were an entrepreneur and we found out that literally the heart, the core of my success was my connection with people, well, what the heck am I going to go behind a computer and look in data for? Right.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right. My brother, my second, right after me in the birth order. He has had his own. He has his own business, and he set it up 14 years ago, and it is very, very successful. It is all online, and it is all created based on the fact that he does not like talking to people.
Right.
And I am the opposite of him. I love talking to people. If I go more than a day without talking to someone, I feel like I must be all alone. I go into a little bit of a depression. And so my whole business is created around the fact that I want to talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But we each have to know that so that we can create our business properly.
That's the thing. I have to say it's a distinction that seems tiny, but I think whether you're new starting in business or you are seasoned and looking at a pivot, um, because I could also, not me personally, but as an entrepreneur, I could also look and say that the success of my previous successes were a lot in part to this exact thing, this
Mm,
trait, but maybe I didn't enjoy that. Like when I think about myself in window works, I spent 40 years knee deep in numbers, knee
mm,
deep in, decimals with figuring out, how much blinds were going to cost and drapes were going to cost and fractions on how many yards and inches to the measures to the 60. Like literally every part of the job for me was a numbers based equation.
mm,
And like I did it. I did it because I also had the sales part of it that was fun, and it was that interaction and meeting the clients and meeting the designers. And I can't even tell you I love the creative part of it. I could give a rip about it. Like, okay, we're gonna put a drape here. Let's find the drape. Let's find the great fabric. I could pick the great fabric, but I wasn't passionately attached to doing it. It was the vehicle. And the funny thing is that it was fine. I had a great life. It was wonderful.
mm.
And then the second I left Window Works on the full-time basis and I'm doing this and I don't use a number for anything, I was like, it was like angel singing. It was like angel singing. It was like, oh my God, I don't have to do decimals and fractions anymore. like, and it's so funny because you could say that the success of my first part of my career was because of the interaction of people and creating something and entrepreneurial driven. But when you recognize that I don't like numbers and you take that out of it, it's like, whoa,
Yep.
big difference, right? It's just interesting. Like you said, it's your strengths. I mean, I can add if I have to. Like I always make a joke, I can't add. I can add if I have to. I mean, I'm a grown ass woman. You know what I'm saying? I can figure it out.
But what I love about you, Luann, is that because I went to your launch party for your documentary.
Oh, for the docuseries, yeah.
And as someone who knew you through our speaking program, it was really fun to see you in your element in a good way. And I remember there was someone who had won one of your giveaways, and she had told you, oh yeah, I met you here. And it took you a second and you were like, oh my gosh, I remember you. And that is life-changing for like what you do in your business. It's almost like we're sort of similar but different, is that you have created, and I love that people even said this, I think on that call, you've created a space where people are working together and not in their own little silos. You're like, hey, there's enough for everyone. But that's your superpower, bringing people together. And you think of like all of the podcast interviews that you do. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll be dead by the time I finish even the ones that you have created. But the amount of connections and how you help people, that's what you're really good at.
Yeah.
And to your point, yes, you can add numbers. Do you care about which color in the drapery? Sure, you can totally figure it out. But because you have that knowledge, you are then able to say, if I was an interior designer, like, hey, Anna, how's your business going? I love that part of the video was like, how's your business going?
I know,
because
right? You're making money.
You're encouraging them to go after what it is that they want, which is a business that allows them to do, like, have that autonomy and financial freedom and all of that. And you're like, okay, if it's not working, let's get you there. Let's make it happen. And here's how. And so like you have the knowledge, but the way that you're now doing it is like way more suitable and so much more up your alley. Because when you say, and for 40 years, I'm looking at numbers, I'm like, were you like half dead? Like, were you taking headache medicines to get through? Like, what was going on? So,
well, I mean, and I think that's really what I'm trying to say when I was saying, like, if your next phase, like, if you're going to go into an e-commerce or a brick and mortar, right? It's like, you can do either, right? But it's like, what is really going to align with your strengths? And so, yeah, I had a successful career. I still work at WindowWorks. I still do the things there. It's not like it's gone. But when you really have the opportunity, like me, it just happened, years and years. But that's the advantage of working with someone like you. You can learn it so much sooner. If anybody, it's probably a good darn thing that nobody actually told me and Vinny that this was not my joy lane, because he would have been like, who cares what her joy lane is? Get her back out there. You know what I'm saying? So it's that. It's like, if I know going in that I'm intellectually capable as an entrepreneur to do either or, but I also know my superpower, my strength, my comfort place is either like your brother, sitting there and in my own head and doing the tech, or it's like me being with the people and connecting with the people and having them connect with each other. Like, that's the critical difference. And that's what I love about the work that you do, Anna, because we can do all the things. We can get our numbers straight. We can learn our craft. We can get our operations and our systems down. But if we are also not just waking up happy, joyful to do this, it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. I think for me, just so I, completely, transparent about it, is I always got enough juice knowing that me and Vinny and Billy were creating a business. So it overcame all those freaking decimal points and fractions, right? And I also intuitively did my own workarounds. Like, I knew that I couldn't do it. I would never say the words. I didn't have the language to say, this is not my strength, this is not my superpower. But I intuitively cocooned myself when I had to do a big numbers event. I had to do yardage for 20 draperies, or I had to do a work order for 2, floors of draperies. I would be like, okay, I got to go Sunday when nobody's there. And Vinny would constantly get mad at me. What do you have to go on Sunday for? I'm like, I can't think straight when everybody's in the office. I'm like, I got to do it when, you know what I mean? Because I'm just too aware of all of my world. And if there's a conversation happen or blah, blah, blah. And you can't pick your head up and come back down to a numbers. No. No. You can pick your head up and come back down to the book you're writing because you can read the 3 paragraphs beforehand and figure out where you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But even that comment is spoken through the lens of your particular strength set, right? And I love that you were like, oh yeah, I'd have to go be by myself because if there was a conversation over there, because that's who you are. Hey, conversation. How's it going? I'm here. Let's talk. What's going on?
That's it.
And that's the clue. It kind of like me leaving lingerie to be like, I would rather have coffee one-on-one with someone. That was where it was like, that's the clue. So the clue for you is like, where are the people? I want to be there and I want to help move them together and let's all create this awesome thing. So that was like almost your clue for that.
Yeah, yeah. Except I wasn't looking for the clues.
Correct.
You're right.
In hindsight, that would have been a clue right there.
That's right. That would have been a clue right there. It's interesting. And so you know what? I think that we all get where we're going one way or another. It's just how quick do you get there? So, 40 years and I got there. Yay.
Exactly. And that's really, I mean, I have, as a business owner, I have had to learn myself to say, Luann, it'll cost X amount of dollars I would love to work with you. Well, however I do it, but to say, Luann, I would love to work with you. It'll cost X amount. I've had to learn that to be able to say that because for me, I see any person who I can connect with and I connect quickly and deeply. That is one of my superpowers. But that is why I'm able to I only need a few hours with you and a strengths report and I got you. But I've had to learn that because I connect so fast with people, I see individuals immediately as my friend. Yes. And in my head, I'm like, I can't charge them because they're my friend. And I just really want to help them because I know I can help them. And I had a friend who's a coach be like, if you believe that what you have to offer is that transformative, don't you think they would want to pay you for that time with you? And I'm like, yes, I guess when you put it like that. But all of us have to learn those things.
That's a very typical Achilles heel of a creative industry like interior design and window treatments. Also, I have to say, because designers buy stereotype big block. If I had a designer say to me once, I've had a designer say to me 1,000 times, well, as a designer, I tend toward people pleasing and I want their home to be beautiful and I want this to happen for them. And so, and it's not that hard for me to do. So it is a thing. And that is, one of the missions of the podcast is to help everyone understand that what they're doing has value and that the rest of us need that value. And just like you and me, Anna, we're not going to put together a room the way a designer is going to put together a room. And if we want it put together good, we're going to pay for it.
Absolutely.
That's just how it's going to go. Right. And so, I love it. I think it's awesome. And I just tell everybody, we walk into a room at, Heroic Public Speaking at HPS in September of 2022, and there's 60 of us there, and you were the first person that I you are who you say you are. You connect immediately and deeply. And it's like one conversation. I'm like, oh, well, me and Anna, we're buds now. You know what I'm saying? Like that's it, But what's interesting is that you did that with 60 people, right? It's not like one or two. See, I can connect also with people at a meaningful level, right? But I don't have the same drive to do it like you do. I'm fine with, okay, if, there's 20 of us that I feel really connected to and the other 40 that I love because it was a transformative experience, right? To be at HPS. It really was. But I'm sure that you came away with 60 best friends. I'm 100% sure of it.
Something like that. I've also had to learn that just because I think that they're my best friend doesn't mean that they think I'm their best friend.
Right. Well, that's all the different personalities of the rainbow, right?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, this was awesome. I appreciate you so much. I mean, you're just such an outstanding human, and I'm so
Mm,
glad that we met. And I love the work that you do with helping people one on one and really trying to get at their core of their strengths and what they bring to the table and helping them articulate it, as you said. And like I said, for me, I love when an entrepreneur can understand their strengths so that they can articulate it and attract more of their ideal client to them. But I also love it just from the standpoint of just waking up every day and knowing you're doing what you're meant to do because you've adjusted, you've shifted your world to shift your business to the alignment of who you are as a person, because that's how you wake up every day. Like there's no day that's a work day, right? Like that's where I'm at now. It's like there's no day that's a work day. It's all
mm.
good. It's like this is fun, let's keep going. you know so
Yes, exactly. And I think that we think that it'll be really complicated to switch that over, like go from like, oh, I don't know what to do to like, oh my gosh, I love what I do. And there is work involved, but I don't think that the personal journey of figuring it out has to be so long. Let's pretend 40 years to figure it out. Like, and
right.
that's what I love doing is like, no, when are you open? Let's get it done now. They'll figure it out right now. And then
Exactly.
people that's what I love doing is helping people figure it out right now. This is what you're good at. And now lean into that and make more of that happen and stop messing around with this stuff over here or if you have to figure out how to offload it, then go ahead. But it doesn't
Right.
have to take years. It could take
Get somebody else
one
to do the
session
numbers.
and you're good. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. All right, lady. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Oh, this was so much fun. And this was definitely the highlight of my day for sure. So thank you.
You're welcome. Don't you love her just like I do? I mean, you can definitely tell her strength is connecting with people and helping entrepreneurs move forward. What we are talking about is not completely what is your superpower. You probably know your superpower. You know you're great at designing. What we're talking about is that intrinsic trait that you bring to the table that sets you apart from your colleagues, from other designers, so that you can attract the business to you that belongs to you, right? Some of you know you're capable as an entrepreneur. I'm glad for it. But maybe you don't necessarily know those super strengths or your special sauce, and we all have one. I bet if I said, raise your hand if you sometimes feel like you're flailing around in your business, I'd see some hands up. I've been there. It's way more common than you think, I promise you. But like Anna said, once you know your own strengths, you will know how to use them in the best way possible in order to reach your goals. You will know who you need to hire. You will have a better idea of who your ideal client is, and you'll be able to really explain to them everything that you bring to the table because you'll own it, right? And you might be aware of your strength, but maybe you don't know how to highlight it. And that's also where Anna comes in. Whether you need help recognizing your strength or you need help with understanding what to do with it, Anna loves to pull it out of you. She loves it because she loves to see the transformation, and she knows there will be one. We've talked so many times on the podcast about knowing your worth and advocating for yourself. Being aware of your strengths is a huge contributor to this. You can recognize when you've been successful, but you may not always have the self-awareness of what actually got you there, right? Now, another one of my previous guests, Heather Hansen, who, by the way, is going to be the MC at Luann Live, and who, by the way, is also an alumni of Heroic Public Speaking, said on episode 811, no one can better advocate for yourself than you because no one has your experience, passion, and talent. But understanding that is the step before advocating for yourself, right? So if you feel all scrambled on what to do in your business or would like help cementing your strengths, or even if you're like a veteran designer that just needs a reset, I hope that you will consider reaching out to Anna for help. You are worth it, you are special, and you will enjoy and benefit from connecting with Anna. To get in touch with Anna, go to AnnaYNelson.com. The link will also be in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening today. I appreciate you so much that you show up. I cannot tell you how much it makes my day. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.